Does anyone even logic?
All right. On another issue, what is the gender workplace hours gap? The agency reports a workplace gender pay gap comparing male full-time employees and female full-time employees, but male full-time employees work longer hours on average than female full-time employees. And the agency doesn't account for this when reporting the workplace gender pay gap.
Using ABS data on employee earnings and hours, the gender pay gap as at May 2016 was 15.7%. It is a survey of employees, that information from the ABS. It's not a census. And it's only conducted every 2 years. They only collect the data every 2 years. What we do is we annualise our figure to full-time. So we look at all part-time employees and full-time employees that may have worked part of a 12-month period, and we annualise that data to take into account part-time hours. So therefore we're converting the part-time hours to full-time, if you like.
So do you take into account the fact that on average a male full-time employee works longer hours than a female full-time employee?
Not directly, no.
You don't?
But we annualise the part-time hours and those that have worked full-time but for part of the year. So that way, because at the moment, what I can tell you is women work part-time at 3 times the rate of men. So by annualising it, we are looking at a more realistic...
So you base it on annual salary?
Yeah.
What about if you did it on an hourly rate? What would be the gender hourly pay gap?
Well, we don't have that data, Senator.
You don't have that data?
No, because we ask for annualised salaries from our employers when they report their data in.
Okay, so if a woman was working fewer hours but earning the same rate per hour as a man doing the same job, would that show up as a gender pay gap?
No.
But, well, then in that case you are looking at hourly rates.
Janine Budov, Research and Analytics Executive Manager. So we do not collect the real hours that an employee might have worked. So what we do collect is the hours that are specified in a contract, and that is provided by organisations to us. If that makes sense.
Yeah, but I mean, do you annualise it on the assumption that men and women are working the same number of hours, or is it actual earnings?
It's actual earnings, and we are unable to. We don't have the data to distinguish or to then adjust for hours, because we cannot collect the real hours that employees are working.
So it's not possible to tell whether any or some of the gender pay gap is just simply attributable to a different number of hours worked. Is that right?
It depends on whether we're looking at hours that are in contract, or whether we're looking at hours that employees worked as, overtime.
Why is it you don't look at hours worked? You don't collect it, but the ABS does. It's available.
The ABS does a survey, yes.
Every 2 years.
Yes.
But again, as I say, we collect census data, that is survey data. And the other thing I would say at this stage, Senator, is just because somebody might be sitting at their desk for 12 hours a day doesn't mean you're getting 12 hours of productivity out of them, and doesn't mean that they're working in essence any harder than someone that may sit at their desk for 8 hours. So I don't think...
That's true, but they're getting paid for the 12 whether they're doing any work, or they're getting paid for however many hours they're sitting at their desk. And the issue for your agency is that if it's a male sitting at a desk, they're getting paid more than a female sitting at a desk. So the question is whether that, irrespective of the hours, the question is whether for those hours for which they're getting paid, is there a difference between men and women? So
we don't collect information on hours, Senator.
ABS does, so it's available. So if we put in a question on notice, will you access the ABS data and so you can answer that question?
Well, I did answer it earlier. I said that the ABS employee and earnings and hours data, as at May 2016, the gender pay gap was 15.7%.
That, if I understood you correctly, that's referring to annualised salary, is that right?
Not.
What's the gap based on? Per hourly rates or annual incomes or annualised incomes, or what are we talking about here?
Okay. The EEH data, so that's the employee earnings and hours data, includes all employees regardless of employment status and reflects ordinary time cash earnings. The EEH survey produces hourly earnings for non-managers and can be used to produce a gender pay gap measure inclusive or exclusive of part-time employees. The EEH data can also be configured in a variety of other ways that are useful to the gender pay gap estimates, e.g. managerial versus non-managerial employees. The big drawback from where we sit is that EEH data was identified as being, is just done on a 2-year cycle.
I don't think I can think of many men who would find it acceptable that a woman, irrespective of how many hours she's working in the day, if she's doing the same amount of work as a man, or the same job as a man, was paid any less on the basis that she's a woman. I can't think of any men who would support that. And yet, because you're not looking at hours, we don't know whether that's occurring or not. Am I right there?
Senator, I think at this stage, as I've said to you, we are unable to collect and analyse that data. There are other countries, of course, that do that, and we will...
Not even every 2 years with the ABS survey data? You could do it at least every 2 years.
And I gave you the figure of 15.7% based on the calculation that we last did.
What's the 15.7 reflect?
So what I was about to say, Senator, is I'm happy to take that question on notice and go back and look at that last calculation that we did and provide you with the workings on that.
And Philip Davis and Jess Phillips join us now from College Green. Jess Phillips, you were saying it was laughable. Do you regret saying that now? Was that the right reaction, to burst out laughing?
The thing that I said was laughable. I stand by, the idea that men can't raise issues in Parliament and that male parliamentarians don't have enough opportunities is obviously ridiculous when so many more men are in Parliament. I think that what never gets played in this clip over the weekend is the bit where I asked for a point of order to explicitly state that I do care about the issues that men face.
Right. I mean, don't you have enough opportunity, Philip Davis? I mean, you only have to look at the numbers. Jess Phillips said there she was the only woman on that committee.
Well, there's a difference between how many men there are in Parliament and the debate about men's issues, which aren't just of interest to men. Lots of women are concerned by men's issues, as Jess just indicated. And if you think of the issues that I raised about the high suicide rate amongst men, the lower achievement of boys in schools, the health problems that don't get reported, like testicular cancer, the underreporting of male domestic violence, the problem many fathers having getting access to the children.
Will you be going to DWP questions to raise people who commit suicide through sanctions, largely men?
Hold on a second.
Just today, there's an opportunity.
Jess, you've had your say. I didn't interrupt you in what you had to say. All of those things, if you actually look in Parliament, they very, very rarely get debated, and they are real issues. Now, if Jessie's saying that these issues can be debated at other times and raised at other times, there's exactly the same thing applies to issues around International Women's Day, that we have a monthly questions of women and equality questions in Parliament, which we don't have for men. So if Jessie's going to say to people who come next year to say, actually, we want to debate on International Women's Day, and if she's going to say, well, you don't need one because there's plenty of other opportunities to raise these issues, then that would be entirely consistent.
Right.
But
Well,
what wouldn't be is if you support International Women's Day debate but deprive one for International Men's Day.
Jess Phillips, what do you say?
What I say is that I didn't deprive Philip Davis or the men in Parliament of this debate. Mr. Davis failed to fill in the form correctly,
That's not
and
true.
it may well
true.
still get through to the committees tomorrow.
And you'd support it, would you?
I can't say that I think there is a need for International Men's Day debate. I absolutely, and I am happy and have committed to raising a debate on male suicide, on young boys achieving in school. These are both things that I have personal experience of and see every day in my constituency. That isn't what was asked for. What was asked for was a sort of mealy-mouthed, well, the girls get one.
Right. I mean, is that what you were really asking for, Philip Davis, just to say sort of tit for tat? Because there would be opportunities to raise individual issues, like, as you say, the very worrying issue of high suicide rates amongst young men and underachievement at school. That could be done aside from having an International Men's Day.
Well, I just gave a huge range of issues that affect men that all very rarely get debated in Parliament. A debate for International Men's Day would actually allow all of these issues to be raised during the course of one debate in a very simple way. I was actually on the Backbench Business Committee for 2 years when we granted debates on International Women's Day, as it happens. And all I'm saying is that I don't, in the spirit of gender equality, if we have that every year in Parliament, I can't really see what the objection is to debate the legitimate issues that Jess says are legitimate issues in a prime opportunity, which is to coincide with International Men's Day, which happens to take place on the 19th of November this year.
What I would suggest to you is that you put in for a debate with an actual motion so that the government has to actually do something about, for example, the very poor targeted services for men in mental health services, with an actual motion so that the government have to do. But I suspect that you might talk it out much like you did to the carers who asked for your help on Friday.
Well, and Jess Phillips mentioned, Philip Davis, about voting on other issues, your voting record in general. I mean, are there other ways in other debates to bring these issues to life, and have you voted in favour of them in the past?
Look, I always vote in favour of true equality. I don't know if Jess was selected on an all-women shortlist for her selection.
Did you vote for gay marriage?
I don't. Well, I don't agree with gay marriage.
But
so why would I vote for something I don't agree with? And there's actually that bill. If we want to get into that debate, it has nothing to do with equality. It's actually now it's not equal marriage at all, because you can have civil partnerships and marriage for gay people. You can only have marriage for heterosexual.
I'm all right with that.
So there's
somebody,
it's not equality.
Being blocked from it.
It's not equality though. So Jess has a strange view of equality,
well,
which is that
let me
the
just
groups
ask
that she
you have a
supports
very basic view of
should
equality.
have more equality than other people.
It's about opportunity.
When you stop, just pause for a moment. What does International Women's Day, Jess, actually achieve?
Well, International Women's Day is, sort of a long-held day. I've never been in Parliament when it was International Women's Day, so I have absolutely no idea what happens in the debate in Parliament.
Right.
But International Women's Day is about recognising that women internationally face terrible inequalities. I mean, issues like, the awful rapes that we've seen publicised in India, the issues around the fact that in Africa the average age of a woman to get married is 14 in some countries. These are issues that, we want to stand as sisters shoulder to shoulder with our, across the world and say that we don't accept it.
And that's what you want for men, is it, Philip Davis? An exact replica of that debate about men around the world?
Yeah, absolutely. There are issues that affect women, and I've taken part in debates on International Women's Day before, and like I say, I've granted them when I was on the Backbench Business Committee.
Thank you for your sorority.
All I ask is that we actually have real equality, and I don't know what Jess is so worried about in allowing these men's issues to be debated.
Well, I look forward to seeing both of you.
Issues.
I look forward to seeing both of you in that debate when it happens.
If it ever happens.
Well, the women's one I meant first, but yes, if the men's one happens as well. Thank you to both of you.
Come da porta picchita va bene, se tu la parla miezza americano, quando si fa l'amore sotto la luna, come da bene in capo di I love you, papà l'americano.